Yeah, what's up? Welcome. As always, I'm your host. I'm Will Bryant. And we're throwing it back today. It's been a little bit over a month now where I've had guests for you guys. It's actually been, what's this going to be now? 5 weeks in a row by the time that this episode comes out that I've had a guest with me talking about anything from Broadway plays to MMA fighting to working for JetBlue and getting stabbed in the back and all of the good stuff. And I'm going a little old school today, if you will, where it's going to be just me. It's a me, myself, and I episode. I thought that it was time where I do one by myself for a very special and specific reason. And that reason is that just this past weekend, I finally had the privilege and the honor of performing at the Comedy Cellar. I finally had my debut in comedy, my debut set, my first 5 minutes ever, and it happened on a Comedy Cellar stage. Now, by the time this comes out, it probably will have been a couple of weeks in between. Look at me. Look at us. Look at us now. I'm being so responsible and working so hard at this podcast that I'm actually a couple of weeks ahead in my recordings, scheduling guests, trying to have some more diverse content for you. I've got some more guests lined up, but I thought that right now would be apropos for a little break in the guests, just so that I could have a moment or an episode where I give you guys the inside perspective of what it was like to perform at the Comedy Cellar, what it was like to go through the entire process that led to me being able to come up with 5 minutes of jokes and then performing it at one of the most famous venues in the entire world when it comes to comedy. So I thought, this one should be just me and go back to basics here on I'm Will Bryant, where you know that I have no problem hogging the spotlight and sharing it with absolutely nobody and going solo on this son of a bitch over here. So how about we do it? Cheers to me. Cheers to you. Thanks for being here. Before I get started, you know what it is. Do me a favor. Make sure that you're following me on all platforms. You already know the name, and if you don't, here it comes. It's very simple. At I'm Will Bryant. That's 3 words. I'm Will Bryant. You can do that on Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitch, Spotify, YouTube, all that good stuff. Rate and review my podcast, please. That helps as well. Now that stuff is out of the way, let's get down to why you guys are here. Years ago, months ago, on this very podcast, it's probably one of my favorite aspects of this podcast. It's the fact that this, at first it wasn't on purpose, but once I found my footing doing this podcast, I realized that using this as a living audio and visual diary or journal of sorts would probably be the most genuine and appropriate use of this podcast that I can get out of it. My podcast, there's a reason that I don't tie down my podcast in with a very specific niche, a very specific theme, and absolutely zero against those podcasts that are much more specific. I I wanted it to just be about anything and everything that I am thinking, doing, feeling, experiencing. It's why when I changed the podcast name from Big Kid to I'm Will Bryant, it wasn't just me trying to be a soulless branding, entrepreneur type of moniker over here. Although it is easier now that my podcast and all my handles are the exact same thing. It was more about wanting this podcast to be an open book, an open window on what's going on with me in my life. And for the first year of this podcast, by the way, crazy that I can say that now. For the first year of this podcast, that was the truth, and it has been. You guys were there while I was very open about being very unhappy and truly even depressed at a former place of employment. You guys were there when I announced on this podcast that I had quit that job. You guys were there the very next episode when I announced that I got hired at a brand new job, a dream job at the Comedy Cellar. You guys have been there when I announced or admitted out loud for the first time ever on this podcast and anywhere in life really that I wanted to get on stage and do 5 minutes of comedy. You guys were there when I set that goal for myself live on air or, recorded on air on this podcast. You guys have been there for all 47 of my sicknesses and colds and flus. You guys have been there for all of it in the past year. And I've been pretty open with this podcast to the point where, sometimes it feels like in my relationship, my girlfriend finds out more from from listening to the podcast than from conversations with me. I guess I'm just saving the content for an episode. It's all about content, really. She understands. She's trying to be an influencer. So it's cool for me that this went from, we can look it up. This went from an episode where I announced my intentions to get on stage to then letting you guys know that I even signed up for a class to announcing that my debut would happen in December. You guys were there when I had to very sadly announce that debut did not happen because I got sick at the worst possible time. And now you guys get to be here on this very special episode where after all that, where after more than 6 months of me talking about it, where with over 1 year of me just being open about my life on this show week in and week out, I think it's really cool that after all that, we're here on episode 53, and this episode is going to be dedicated about how I finally got on stage at the Comedy Cellar and how my performance went, because it happened. It fucking happened, guys. And I just want to thank every one of you guys that were there along the way in some sort of manner, even as simple as seeing, excuse me, as I burp when I get sentimental with you guys, even as something as simple as leaving a little comment or sending a little DM when I even announced that I was going to do it or had intentions of doing it, and we'll get to the feedback I got after it happened. I've got, you know me. I don't just tell you something straight up. I got to tell you the whole story. So sit back and it'll be story time about what it's like, I guess, performing at the Comedy Cellar. Uniquely, however, for me, I didn't just perform at the Comedy Cellar. It was my first time ever. And it's pretty surreal, even saying that out loud. So let's get to it, man. First, I wanted to even go into the background a little bit of how this even happened. Because early on in my employment at my current job at the Comedy Cellar, bartending, I heard from coworkers that there is indeed a comedy course that it's not really that the Comedy Cellar teaches it, but it's just somewhat affiliated with it. There's two teachers or two professors or whatever that teach courses, and they do it at the Comedy Cellar, but it's pretty much their own thing. You know, it's not like taking that class is a step into the cellar or something like that. It's not like you take that class and you're gonna have more eyes from the cellar on you. It doesn't work that way. In fact, it might even work against you. But one of the professors was this guy that's been there for over 40 years, and he's someone that I actually have heard of before in passing, really. I remember actually listening to like an episode of the Joe Rogan podcast where he had Tom Papa on, and Rogan said something like, you know, there are no classes that can like teach you this or whatever. He was trying to allude to the fact, or not even allude, just flat out saying that comedy is something you kind of just have to work at and have a little bit of, I guess, something you're born with in a way. And Tom Papa actually chimed in and said that he did know of one person that did teach a class that he felt like offered knowledge of merit that was very useful for even getting started in the business. And that class was at the Comedy Cellar, and that teacher was Rick Crom. That very man is the person that I would end up meeting working at the Olive Tree Cafe, which, just to remind you guys, that is the cafe right above the original Comedy Cellar location. It's connected to the cellar, basically. We have the same staff in the same kitchen. So Rick Crom will walk in all the time to have, you know, like a cappuccino and have some food. He's been with the cellar for over 40 years, as I said. He used to host all the time. He's a comedian himself. He's also a really good singer, like Broadway singing and even opera. He's been on Broadway. He was on Urinetown, I believe, back in the day in that run, which was a very successful comedic musical on Broadway. I believe he's also going to be back on Broadway in a production headed up by Sarah Silverman. They're friends. He's been on her show. He's been on Louis on FX. He's just a old school, well-seasoned veteran actor, or comedian and actor that's respected within the community. Very respected by names like the aforementioned Tom Papa, but people like Bill Burr, Ray Romano speak highly of him. Friends with Amy Schumer, been on her show. Sarah Silverman. And even within the cellar comedians now, like, you know, he's always kind of like respected. He doesn't really perform much anymore at the cellar, but he still has jokes. He still's got a bit. And he's still really talented, you know, and a lot of knowledge to pass on. He's the kind of person that if you're willing to listen, he's willing to talk to you, you know, not just, he's not the type of guy that'll just talk just to hear himself talk, you know, but if you are interested, he's there. I always kind of, as I do with all comics, I approach with, I don't want to say caution, but perhaps maybe a little reverence is more accurate. I don't want to, I'm always afraid or worried that I'm going to be bothering them or annoying them by doing anything more than just, you know, serving them their coffee or their water or their tea or their food or whatever, you know. But eventually, I do remember one morning, I believe, I was opening with my coworker, and Rick came in, I'm not even done. I'm not even done with my first beer, and I'm opening my second. Whoops. That's not a red flag. And my coworker was talking to Rick about the class that he teaches, and how he was, always just, kind of interested and curious about stand-up. Like you hear that a lot from people. Like, oh, I've always been curious about it. I always have wanted to do it. I've always thought I could do it, all this and that. The moment that I put it out there that I wanted to do it or had intentions of doing it, a lot of people started telling me those same things. Part of me is like, all right, that's cool, but, do something about it. Then talk to me. Then let's talk, because everybody has ideas of doing. I have an idea of winning an Oscar someday. It doesn't fucking mean anything. Yeah, and a Grammy. I've thought about it, Oh, that's crazy. If I ever meet Beyonce, I'm going to be like, you know what? That's crazy. I've always thought about winning multiple Grammys. I've always thought about going on a worldwide tour. I have. So, we're the same, basically. You and I. That's how that works. Oh, hi, Michael Jordan. It's funny. I've also thought about being the greatest basketball player of all time. It's nuts, That's so, I've also thought about starting an iconic shoe line. So we are, you and I basically think the same exact way. It's crazy. It's crazy. We're basically the same, just, I just never did it. It's just, my knee, and then I had that kid. Anyways, getting back to it. He was talking to Rick about the class, and Rick mentioned that the class was fully booked for the rest of the year, like months on out. Like it was booked for like the next five months already. And he hadn't even started booking 2024 because he didn't want to go that far ahead. He did say, though, like, I do, every time that whenever you sign up for the class, I send the students this, like, booklet, little short pamphlet or whatever, that to kind of get them started. And it's something that they're supposed to read before the very first class. And he was like, I can send you guys that, or I can send you that if you, want to see what it's about, in case you're interested. And I was like, I'd love to get that too. And he's like, yeah, just, my email is this, and that. Just email me and send it to me. So tell me that we spoke and you wanted it. I'm pretty sure my coworker never sent out that email and never thought about it again. Me, however, I sent that email the moment that my shift ended, and he sent me the packet. And then a couple of months passed by, probably 2 or 3 months passed by, and he's in the cafe again. I'm making him a cappuccino. I think it was another opening shift. That's usually when I will see him the most. And he casually mentions I don't even think to me, I just think out loud to a couple of us, like, oh, I just, somebody just dropped out of my final class of the year at the last minute. And I was like, oh, yeah? And with my schedule, it's never the same every week. So it would have been difficult to me to do pretty much anything except for like one day that I never really work. And I never work Sundays during the day because that's brunch. And there's 2 specific bartenders that do that every week. And he just so happens to go like, yeah, my Sunday morning or Sunday early afternoon class just lost a student. And I was like, that's the only time of the week that I am consistently open. And he's like, well, if you're serious about it, just email me. And once again, by the time that I had clocked out, 5 minutes later, I sent him the email that I was serious. He was nice enough to give me what he called the family discount from the cost of the course. And I started like the very next week, and it was a 5-week course, 3 hours a week, every Sunday, and then the 6th week, all 10 students would perform the 5 minutes that they had been working on stage at the Comedy Cellar. Classes were great. Rick is really good at breaking down almost like the science and the framework of a joke and comedy, and the types of jokes, the types of punchlines. Very much what I needed. I didn't really, not to sound egotistical, although I take every opportunity to do so, I didn't take the class to learn how to be funny. I think that I have a small natural ability to be funny. I took the class to learn how to turn that humor into comedy, which is very different. You know, you can be a humorous person and hold a funny conversation, but you go on stage and have that same conversation on stage to an audience that's just there to listen to you. It doesn't hit the same. A comedy is, you know, taking that and finding the right way to say it in the correct order so that it is not just an amusing story, but something that will actually elicit laughter from an audience. I needed to learn how to do that kind of is what I needed to learn the math behind it in a way. I needed to learn the architecture of it more so than, you know, teach me how to be funny. And that's what I got out of Rick. The class I was in, you know, I liked my class. There was a handful of people there in the class that I thought were pretty good, and we talked about going to open mics together after the performances and whatnot. But then, about 3 days before my debut, I come down with like the worst case of, I don't know if it was bronchitis or pneumonia or what, but I hadn't been that sick in years. Had to miss about a week of work. And I was out. I was down and out. I had to tell Rick I can't do it. I couldn't. I literally could not stand up on my feet long enough to even deliver a 5-minute set. I was dizzy. I was nauseous. I was out. So yeah, I texted all my friends and I texted Rick that I couldn't do it. I was truly, truly heartbroken. Rick was nice enough to let me make it up in a way. Since I couldn't perform December, it was going to be the first weekend of December. Since I couldn't do that, he was nice enough to let me go up in February with his next class. He had already booked up all of his January classes, and he said that he would try to find a spot for me in one of those classes, or in one of those, showcases, as we call them. A showcase is a show with multiple comedians, or where we showcase multiple comedians throughout the night. And so for his classes, usually 10 people, they all perform 5 minutes on the essentially graduation showcase. So for this one, I guess we had more than 10. We might have had 11. And it was originally I told him that Sunday would work best, but he said that he had the one that would be easiest to put me into in terms of space and people and in the audience that depending on how many people I could bring, would be the Saturday show. So I just said, fine, I'll just request off from work, specifically Saturday. It's something worth missing, in my opinion, and I did, and I got it off, and I'm super happy. I'm so happy I went up with the class that I did. It it all worked out at the end because I think that the people I went up with were super talented, very strong class. It was a very friendly class. And for a very specific reason, I now have a story to tell about my debut, which I will get to in just a little bit. Before I get there, the day of the show, mind you, I had 6 tickets essentially to give out. And originally, when I was going to perform in December, my parents were actually going to come and my stepbrother was going to come. It's going to be like a family thing, and then my girl, and then basically 2, maybe 3 more people. This time, since I was I think last time I even was allowed 8 tickets, but this time, since I was, the guest added to someone else's show, I was only allowed the 6, whereas, some other people had like 10, and I think this one girl had like 15. The 6 for me, this isn't I'm not gonna get into it on this show, but I will quickly mention that my dad has been in the hospital now for over a month now. Just a couple of days after my birthday, Christmas actually, he fell ill. He's not doing too great, and he's been in the hospital for a while now. So I knew that my dad was not going to be at the show, and I wondered because of that and that situation if I should even bother telling my mom about it. Neither of them have any idea that I was even preparing to do this. As of this recording, they don't know that I went on stage or performed or anything like that. They haven't seen anything, any video or anything. So the day of the show, my mom, who said she was, I told her that there's a friends and family event where you can come to see a show, but I have to work it. I was going to surprise her when I went on stage. But just about 2 hours before, maybe 3 hours before the show, she called me to let me know that she wasn't going to come because she didn't feel too good. She had actually fallen not that long earlier and hurt her back, so I understood completely. It did bum me out, but, I kind of just had to get over that really quickly because I had, probably the biggest moment of my life ahead of me in just an hour or two, so I couldn't really focus on that negative, I told my girlfriend Val to just call our other friend. It's actually Chanel, the one that dubbed us the B Squad, to call her up because, if there's anyone else that wasn't already going to be there that I thought should be there, it was her. The way I chose it was just basically the friends that I've had the longest that have kind of supported me the most or always in some way or another said that I should be doing something like this. So, my girlfriend was obviously going to get that first ticket. But besides that, I brought, Keith and Dave, who are 2 of like my biggest supporters ever. Mon, who's just been a close friend for a long time. And actually put the idea in my head years ago when she actually said that she had a dream that I was opening as a comedian for Foo Fighters. It was a very specific dream that she had, but I never forgot it. And I always thought like that I'd want to try to do something in music, and I guess that's why I got into DJing since I can't sing basically. So when she started off that dream by telling me that I opened up for the Foo Fighters, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, good dream. But then she's like, with a comedy set. I was like, what the fuck? That's not what I wanted. And fast forward now to that's actually that would actually be pretty awesome. Maybe I'll open for myself. I'll do a comedy set and then I'll do a DJ set right after. How about that? So yeah, I invited her because in a way she kind of planted that seed a long time ago. I don't know if she remembers that at all. I actually remember we were at Blockheads and Cole was there too, so he heard that, and at that moment Cole had like agreed. He's like, I don't know about comedy, but I've always seen you just belonging on some sort of stage in general. So Cole was the 6th. He got that 6th ticket. He got the golden ticket. Yeah, that day in Blockheads when Mon told me that weird dream. And Cole found it funny because he told me, he said, yeah, I always envision you on some type of stage. He said it again on Saturday, the moment I got off. He said, you looked like you belonged up there, Leo, just like I thought. I always said you belonged on a stage. So it was cool how that came full circle there in a way, all from one little Foo Fighters dream that Monica had years ago. So those are the people that I brought. I had to get there an hour earlier, so I didn't travel with my girl. I didn't see. They were all basically together at the bar next door while I was at the Cellar already. And I wasn't really nervous when I didn't feel that nervous yet. I don't know if it's that it wasn't hitting me or what. I just felt all right. For me, I didn't feel nervous about like being funny or like, I just wanted to remember my lines. I just didn't want to forget jokes. I didn't want to fuck up my set in terms of like lines. I didn't think I was going to fuck up in terms of like being awkward or, and I was confident enough that if I did get my lines out that they would be funny or at least funny enough for me to walk away and say, okay, at least I have something to work on. You know, I knew that as long as I didn't fuck up my lines, and by line, I mean, I wrote this shit out word for word, bar for bar, line for line. I wrote the whole thing out, you know, in a way, as per my mentor, Rick, part of comedy is giving the illusion that everything you're doing and saying up there is off the cuff, when in reality, every sentence, every word, every pause is carefully thought out beforehand. And oftentimes you can have the right words and just not say them in the right order. Or you can have the right words, say them in the right order, and just emphasize the wrong words at the wrong time, and your joke just won't hit the right way. In a lot of ways, that's the frustratingly beautiful part about comedy that in a way does make it truly an art form. It's what you're seeing up there comes from fucking that up over and over and over again before they finally tuned it to something that works. And it's not always changing up the entire joke. It's changing your cadence, changing your emphasis, changing your timing, changing your tone, changing your volume, changing your mannerisms. All of that matters. So most comedians write the shit out of their jokes and their bits so that they can go back and edit and figure out what worked the best, what worked didn't, or what didn't work. I went into this thinking I was going to be much more of a outline bulletin point type of guy, but no, I quickly found out and learned about myself that I was writing everything down to pauses, to I would use like bolds and italics to emphasize certain words and parts, to remind myself when I might want to inflect more or even not. I don't think I ever yelled, but get louder. I'd even write stage notes in a way. I have a part of my bit where I literally write to myself, act exasperated at a certain part of a joke. It's very meticulously written out for me personally. And from what I've learned, that's not what I'm doing isn't exactly rare. Let's just say that. Most comedians write and write and write and write and write. That's what I was more nervous about, just remembering what I wrote. I didn't realize that, like, I didn't count how many lines I had, but, you know, I had to memorize 5 minutes of dialogue. That's like if an actor's going in to record and he has a 5 minute monologue that he's doing or she's doing, and they're going to try to record the whole thing without any cuts full through, that's that's not exactly a walk in the park for the actor. That's not exactly the easiest day on set. A 5 minute monologue with, no breaks and everybody's eyes on you. That's a task. That's an ordeal. Now imagine you had to write that monologue yourself. It wasn't written for you. It wasn't a script. You had to write that yourself, perform it yourself. And oh, by the way, it has to make other people laugh. That's not easy. And I just didn't want to forget my lines, essentially. And like I said, I wasn't really nervous. And I have this thing. I remember, I guess I talked to Dave about this because I don't even remember talking to Dave about this. But when we talked after the show and he asked me, like, if I, was nervous or whatever with the class. And I was like, well, I went up to everybody in the class and introduced myself right away. And he's like, yeah, you do that. Like, you talk to me, like you said that you like to do that as like a way to defuse situations. I was like, oh, I did? He's like, yeah, you said, like, you go up to everybody no matter what, you introduce yourself, you show respect. And I was like, oh, that sounds exactly like something I'd say because that's exactly what I believe. Yes. So I don't remember having this conversation with you, but I believe you 100% because yes, you're quoting like a mantra to me essentially. And what he was talking about was this. I definitely I grew up being kind of shy, as I guess a lot of people do. But I got to a point in my life where I realized that me being shy was pretty much doing nothing for me. And I started to break out of my shell a little bit. And one of those things that I remember helped me to not be shy in a way was that I made it a point to be. By the way, my nose has been itching me this entire episode. Whoever's watching on YouTube thinks that I am coked the hell out for this episode. I promise you I don't do coke. But anyways. I do this thing where if I'm entering, like, if it's like not a party, like I don't go to clubs doing this, but if I'm like in a small gathering and I only know like one or two people or whatever, if I'm at a new job, anything, like I recently went to a podcaster's networking event, and same situations or different situations, same, outcome. I have no problem going right up to pretty much everyone in the room and just walking right up to them and shaking their hand and going, hey, how you doing? My name's Will. Nice to meet you. How you doing? Blah, blah, whatever. And I just kind of break the ice like that. It doesn't mean I have to go into a full-blown conversation, but I will go up to people and just say, hey, what's up? How you doing? I actually got that from wrestling because it is an unwritten rule in wrestling that whenever a wrestler or pretty much anyone associated with the company, whenever they enter a locker room, they have to go up to each and every person and shake their hands and say hi. And if they're new, they have to introduce themselves. I would take my nose off if I could right now. So when I learned that in wrestling, or not in wrestling, but from wrestling, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I've used that in jobs and, in events, and it's pretty much always worked in my favor. It's an icebreaker right away. And it's also a good barometer for you as a person. The people that are very warm and accepting of your handshakes, that to use already a little indicator, like, oh, that might be a good person. That might be a dope person to like, gravitate to. And then you'll see that there are people that like almost don't even want to shake your hand, don't want to say hi to you. And you might be like, oh, that person is obviously kind of a dick. Maybe I stay away. And I probably wouldn't have known that if I didn't go up and, shake their hand. And there's nothing that's going to make me look bad by going up and introducing myself to somebody else. If you have to be a real piece of shit to think that me going up to you and say, hey, how you doing? My name's Will. Nice to meet you. Just wanted to say hi. You have to be a real piece of shit to be like, wow, what an asshole. You know, it just doesn't work that way. So, and also going back to this event, you got to realize these people have been in a class with each other for 5 weeks now, 3 hours a week. So they've spent 15 hours together in the past 5 weeks, learning how to do something, being vulnerable in front of each other, doing their comedy, their bits in front of each other, giving each other advice, opening themselves up. They've gone through a little bit something here in the past 5 weeks. Then here I am, this guy that they've only heard about from Rick. I'm some guy that they haven't spent even a second with. I'm going to be on their show, right? Like and I'm not going in the beginning. I'm not first. I'm not last. I'm going right in the middle, in between all of these people that have been together for 10 weeks. Excuse me, for 5 weeks. So I knew, or I thought, there might be a little bit of apprehension towards me, towards who's the stranger, who's the new guy. So that's another reason why I went right up to everybody and just was introducing myself. Hey, how you doing? I'm Will. I'm performing with you guys. And every single one of them was absolutely awesome. Fucking just friendly, warm, accepting, just open. It was immediately very comforting. Here's the I said earlier in the episode that I was very glad that this is the class that I ended up performing with, because it also gave me a pretty cool story that I'll have for the rest of my life. Here's that story. In fact, I deserve to. This story deserves a little bit of a fresh beer. So, bam. So, I'm there about an hour early. And at first it was just me and just other comedian that arrived, and then little by little more trickled in. And it's at the point where about, I'd say maybe 6 of us are there. And, I've introduced myself to everyone at this point. Rick's giving us like small instructions, like, oh, you guys are going to walk up from this side. The lighting's going to be like this or whatever. But no, he doesn't give us any huge instructions yet until he wants to wait for the other comedians to get there. And then another comedian arrives, and I have this like double take where I'm just chilling. Like I said, still not nervous, feeling pretty good. And this other comedian walks in, and I'm just like doing a squinty double take, and I'm like, that guy fucking looks exactly like Vinny Guadagnino from the Jersey Shore. That's hilarious. And then suddenly I hear the people I'm performing with, the classmates that have been together for 5 weeks, they all go, hey, what's up, Vinny? Hey, Vinny, how you doing? Hey, Vinny. And then he like takes off his jacket and steps out a little bit clearer into the light, and it 100% is Vinny from the fucking Jersey Shore. He was in that class. He's on the same show as I am. Or perhaps I should say, that's when I found out that I was going to be on the same comedy show as Vinny from the Jersey Shore. I don't know why. Remember I said I wasn't nervous at all before? For some reason, the moment that I realized that I was going to be in the same show as Vinny from the Jersey Shore, I started to get nervous. And dude, I don't mean like a little nervous. Like, can I tell you, I have jumped out of a plane and still have never felt as much nerves and anxiety as I did this past Saturday while I was preparing to perform at the Comedy Cellar. It was the most nerve-wracking 45 minutes of my life. And I've jumped out of a goddamn plane. The moment I landed from that plane, I puked my brains out. Still not worse than performing at the Comedy Cellar. I have no idea why seeing Vinny, who, by the way, fucking awesome guy, chill dude. He was just one of the classmates. It wasn't like here comes the celebrity. None of that. He was just a fucking good, chill dude. You know how he always comes off as the most normal, grounded member of the Jersey Shore? That's why. He's just a good, chill dude, And of course, like I said, I introduced myself to every single person, and I did it to him. I believe, actually, when I introduced myself to him, I think a part of him was like, oh, this guy, just sees that I might be Vinny or whatever. I don't know who this guy is. Then he saw like the next 4 people come in after him that he saw that I introduced myself to them too. And I think he realized like, he's just saying hi to everybody. I wasn't about to be a fanboy and be like, oh man, I can't believe I'm doing this show with you or whatever. I just wanted to let him have his, space to feel comfortable, because we're all kind of very new to this comedy thing. It wasn't his first time ever, but he had only done it a handful of times before. And he admitted he was a little nervous too. So it was a big deal for all of us. He brought his mom, which I thought was awesome. He's fucking just a good old wholesome Italian boy. Actually, it's funny. We're all in this like separate room. I guess it was our green room. Kind of mingling with each other before we like got into our real prep time. And none of these people have heard a single second of my set, whereas all 10 of them have pretty much heard every line of each other's 5 minutes. That's how the classes work. So one of the comedians that I was going to perform with, she asked me, so Will, what's your set about? And I was like, I mostly talk about my girlfriend and my mom, basically. And Vinny goes, oh, that's funny. Me too. And I'm like, oh, yeah? He's like, yeah. My set is mostly about your girlfriend and your mom, too. Ba-dum-bum. The son of a bitch got me. I got roasted by Vinny from the Jersey Shore. I gave him a friendly like flip of the finger, but that's what I mean. He's just a good chill dude, funny guy. When we got the order of performances, I thought it was. I part of me was like, of course. I go on right before Vinny. Essentially, I'm opening for Vinny Guadagnino of the Jersey Shore. So it's funny how things work out, man. I was supposed to go on in December. I felt heartbroken that I couldn't. And if you would have told me back then, don't worry, just wait 2 months and you're going to be on the same show with Vinny from the Jersey Shore and you're going to go on right before him, I would have been like, that makes for an awesome story. Hell yeah, sign me up. And that's exactly what happened. So, and also, no shade to my class. There's, like I said, there's a handful of people in my class that I would love to go on open mics with and would do shows with and want to keep in touch with. But those handful of students in my class, we know that there were some other students in that class that perhaps have little work to do, let's say. We all have work to do. Some of us just might have to do a little bit more. This class, it felt like 10 killers, man. 10 very, unique styles and nobody bombed. No one did bad. It was just, everyone was just killing it. There was this one dude that I thought stood out to me. His name is Daisuke. He's an actor. He really had just a very, I want to call it a polished look or sounding set. He's actually an actor. Both like, I believe he does TV, stage, and like film and stage and voice acting, I believe. And it shows because he had like very good command of the stage and the mic, and very just like clearly spoken, I should say, not well spoken. He was very his like diction was just there, you know. He went. I knew he was going on third, and if I'm fifth, I should be out there, I guess, at least, so I'm not running to the stage from the back or whatever. And I caught most of his set, and I thought he was just killer. In fact, most of my friends, I believe all my friends told me that they believe that he was like the best of the night. Of course, they're like, "Oh, you mean after you, Will?" But whatever. I'm not. I was like, "Fuck that." Like, I do think Daisuke was probably the best of the night, and it was his very first time doing it as well. And there was this funny moment where we're all in the other room getting ready, and it's the moment of the night where we're all like most nervous, just going through our lines, preparing, pacing back and forth. And he comes up to me and he goes, we barely spoke before, but just an introduction. He just comes up to me, he goes, "Hey, do you think this shirt is too busy?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I don't know if it's too busy, like when I go up there, if it's going to be distracting." And I was like, "I didn't even notice your shirt till you said something right now. So I think you're going to be just fine." I said, "Well, you seem, like you've got pretty good command of the mic, even from just warming up a little bit earlier. I think you're gonna kill it. Don't worry." And he's like, "Oh, it's my first time, so I'm nervous." And I go, "Oh, dude, it's my first time too. I'm in the same boat as you." And he goes, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, my first time too." And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the pro." Because every show we have like a pro that either opens and or closes the show. Someone that is not doing it for the first time, And he thought the whole time that I was the pro. He's like, "You're just walking around so comfortably, like not like you own the place or something." I was like, "Well, I do work with I work at the Comedy Cellar. I don't work at this location. I work around the corner, but I've been here many times, and I know Rick, pretty much personally from working around the corner now. So I guess in a way, yeah, I do feel comfortable here. I don't feel like I'm, out of my element. I guess I was playing a home game, and so that kind of made me feel a little bit better, because even though I promise you I was terrified, it seems like on the outside I was not. Again, you guys know that I love using that duck on the pond metaphor where I on above surface level look cool, calm, and collected, but the truth of the matter is underneath the surface level, my feet are flapping like terrified little things, just trying to keep me afloat, and that's what was going on. So we shared a little laugh there when we realized that neither one of us is pros at this, and we're both going up there for the very first time. So it was a nice moment where I don't know if he realized how what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if he realized how, in a way, therapeutic his my case of mistaken identity was with him. So and he was just super nice. So he was just seemed very genuinely kind and warm. So I'm glad that we even had that interaction. We we exchanged like Instagrams afterwards. So Daisuke is a good dude and absolutely killed it up there. And I saw him go up there at number 3, and then came number 4. And I was, at this point, like I had to stop just trying to go over the lines in my head. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to memorize something now that I didn't memorize in the past 2 months, So I just kind of allowed myself to just listen to the fourth comedian set and enjoy it. And I thought she was pretty solid, actually. Her name's Ellie, I believe. And I was laughing. I just allowed myself to enjoy it and laugh. And, when the comedian before you starts wrapping up, you move over to a specific spot it's basically your on deck circle for those baseball fans out there. It's just somewhere you stand so that you can be, called up to the stage next. You don't want to, keep Rick waiting up there. And, Ellie came up and was done. I gave Daisuke a high five when he came off. I gave Ellie a high five when she came off, and then it was my turn. And Rick was up there, and I'm very used to hearing Rick's voice. So Rick For the Comedy Cellar at McDougal Street, the introduction to every show, it says like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Comedy Cellar. Tonight you'll see comedians from The Tonight Show, from movies and films and TV, from various specials and whatnot on Comedy Central, on HBO, on Netflix or whatever. And your host for the night, please welcome blah, 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 blah. We have pre-recorded versions of that for like all of our hosts, basically. And the voice that has done all of those pre-recorded introductions is Rick Chrome's voice. So every time that I work in the Comedy Cellar, before every single show, and we have 3 a night, 4 on weekends, I hear Rick's voice saying, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for the evening, blah, blah. And now suddenly I'm standing just feet away from a Comedy Cellar stage. And I'm watching the source of that voice that I hear before every show, every shift that I work. I hear and see Rick Chrome standing on stage with the Comedy Cellar logo right behind him. And he's announcing me. He's saying my name. Ladies and gentlemen, Will Bryant. And from that moment on, it felt a little bit like a blur, man. It felt like a blur. You know, the words were coming out. I had the mic in my hand, words were coming out, and truthfully, oftentimes, while I was on stage, I caught myself having an inner monologue in my head while actually speaking out loud to the audience. Some logistical stuff, let's get that out of the way. What did it feel like up there? There's a literal spotlight that shines on you that's so bright, and then they turn off all the other lights in the room, essentially. So it's very dark in the room except for the stage. Because of the way that that's lit up, I can pretty much only see the first row of people, maybe the second row, and a little bit of the third, but that's really it. And in a room with over 60 people, maybe close to 70 that day, I probably saw a dozen from stage. My friends were sitting a little bit towards the back on an elevated. They had nice seats, but they weren't close. So I didn't see them at all. Oddly enough, I did hear one of them. Monica has this cackle, ha, that just pierces through pretty much everything else. It was actually, in a way, it was calming. It was even though I couldn't see my friends, I could hear one of them, so I knew they were there. And it was nice. Her voice she's, even in the video that I got of my performance, you can clearly hear Monica reacting to pretty much everything in my set. Like, oh no, is that you? Ha! So thank you, Monica. Definitely not mad I invited you at all. That was perfect. But I was having these like inner thoughts while I was performing, which was kind of surprising me on the spot. Like I said, the words were coming out, and I'd always be like surprised and thinking in my head, being surprised that, wow, that came out correctly. I'd be catching myself having, inner thoughts like, whoa, that sentence came out perfectly. Or they didn't notice that that's not the cadence I wanted to use for that sentence. It's all good. Keep going. It was weird how much I was actually in my own head. I guess at that point, the words were just coming out from like, I don't know if it was just like a muscle memory at that point, because I had just drilled it over and over and over and over and over. I don't know if, I really don't know how to describe it. In a way, they were the most important string of words that I've ever put out in my life. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't really clearly thinking about them at the time. I was surprised they were coming out right. I knew pretty much right away that things were going well. They laughed pretty much right away. They laughed in most of the places that I wanted. I got bigger laughs in some spots than others. In a lot of times, not a lot of times, but there are certain spots where I got bigger laughs where I thought I was going to just get some chuckles. And I got, some chuckles where I thought that was going to be a bigger laugh. There's even one moment in my set where I had this bit that I thought ended in something funny, and it elicited sympathy from the crowd instead. Like, I got a lot of like, ohs instead of like, ha. And I literally said like, wow, you guys, that came out way more depressing than I ever thought. Like my bad. That was supposed to be a punchline. And my reaction to their reaction ended up eliciting one of the bigger laughs of my entire set. So even in my first set ever, I'm learning to roll with it, to not feel too married to what you do have prepared or written out. Because I realized right away, just being in the moment and reacting led to one of the better moments of the set, And who knows, maybe from here on out, I'll realize, that line actually usually, more often than not, elicits sympathy instead of laughs. But then if I follow it up with that line that I ad-libbed on this show and use that as the actual punchline of the joke, maybe that even works better. Maybe the joke actually just evolved. I remember I was really terrified that I was also going to go over by a lot, because every time I was practicing my set, I mean, I'm telling you, the first couple of times it was going like 9-10 minutes, and I'm supposed to do 5-6 max. And I'm going 9 to 10. I started cutting out lines, taking out jokes. I really cut out the fat, and I got it down to like where I was like doing 6.5 to 7 depending. And the best I could get it to was like 6.5 consistently. And I felt okay at that point that Rick wasn't going to, fucking, give me the light at 6 minutes, 6:30 or whatever. But I knew that I was going to rush, because what I've realized actually while doing this show, this podcast, is, and going back and editing, certain things to put out as clips on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and Twitch, where you can follow me. While editing myself, I realized that I take my time when I speak. I have no problem taking pauses between sentences and even between words, So I think I would feel more comfortable doing or performing in that manner on stage. But I have to learn, and this is something that Rick, kind of broke down to me in a personal conversation. He's like, look, sometimes you have bits for your 5-minute set, and then you have longer versions of those bits for your 10 and 15-minute sets. And that's when I started feeling like, it's okay to cut these lines out, because they're not lost forever. I say they're saved in my notes and all this shit. And, if I ever do a 10-minute set down the road, then I'll use that version of this set where I add in more lines. I take more, time with my lines, more pauses, more act outs or reactions and shit. But for this one, with this 5 minutes that I got, I admit that I was rushing very much on purpose just to make sure I got it all in, essentially. I didn't take my time delivering the lines like I normally would. Again, I don't think it really hurt me too much. I just think that I would have maybe felt a little bit more comfortable and maybe gotten some laughs in places where I think I would have gotten some laughs if I took my time more and paused in certain places. But instead, because I rushed, it just felt like I was getting to the next joke and it wasn't supposed to really elicit a laugh at all. That really only happened about like once or twice that I could think of. But it's no big deal, really. It was just something to take into consideration for next time. I was up there. It felt, like I said, like a blur, and I knew I was getting to the end. And man, when I got to that last joke, and my closing joke hit, and it hit really well. My closer, a lot of comedians try to do this, where the final joke of their set is a callback to an earlier joke that happened earlier on in the night or the set or something like that. It's like a nice little way to tie a ribbon and have a bow on top of your set. A lot of comedians do it. Sometimes, they try to make a callback to what they consider, probably the biggest joke or the best joke of the set, something like that. So I came up with something very late in my process, actually. I came up with a closing joke that was a callback to something earlier on in my set. And when I finished that joke and it hit, I remember just feeling really proud of that joke specifically. And, I thanked the crowd. I got a nice little ovation there. And Rick came back on stage, shook my hand. I thanked him and I walked off. And, I could have walked to this like area. It's kind of like an elevated seating area, like rafters almost. And I could have sat and with the rest of my comedian classmates or whatever, or my show mates, and giving them high fives. But instead I didn't I actually I think I gave Vinny I shook his hand or gave him a fist bump because he was coming on right. He was already standing there and he was going to go next. And I just walked right out of the showroom and into the room that we were gathering ourselves in. That room was a lot cooler, literally, in terms of temperature, and I needed that. And so the moment I walked out of that room, I just had to start breathing like, like I was just walking around, pacing a little bit, making sure that I wasn't about to pass out, dude. I've never ever felt anything like that in my life. I'm not kidding. As someone that has done so many drugs, I've done weed, I've done coke, I've done K, I've done acid, I've done shrooms, I've done Molly, I've done ecstasy, I've done painkillers, I've done Xanax, I've done Tusi. I'm pretty sure I did meth by accident. I smoked cocaine in a blunt once. More than once. It was really good. I drink a lot. Do a lot of shots. I've done a bunch of shit. So I know what it feels like to be high. And I can tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt, the moment I got off that Comedy Cellar stage, I was high as a motherfucker. I got high, got high, I got high as a motherfucker. By the way, I did not drink before. Well, I did have a beer at home before. But for like the 2 hours prior to the show, I didn't touch another drink. I thought I might want to drink and to loosen up. And I realized I am so fucking nervous and terrified of forgetting a line. Now I see why all these comedians that I see at work have tea and water and Diet Coke before their sets. More often than not. People think, comedians just go and get drunk and get on stage. These motherfuckers are looking at their meticulously written notes while drinking African nectar tea with honey and lemon to loosen up their vocal cords and stay sober so that they can have all their facilities on stage. It ain't what you think. Now, after they're done, yeah, they were probably getting pretty drunk. And you know what? So did I. I had a Corona right after. I bought a Corona, and my girlfriend was the first one that came out. She, you know, because if you go to the bathroom, you get to go to the same, you know, room that we're all, you know, in our green room essentially. And she saw me and came over and just gave me a huge hug. It felt good. It felt like the first time she hugged me where it wasn't because I did something stupid and she wanted to know that she was still there for me. She hugged me because I did something great and was proud of me. That was pretty new. Usually she hugs me and it goes, oh, it's okay. I still love you. You know? Usually my girlfriend hugs me and it's like, it's okay that you just broke that. It's okay you just fell on your face. You know? This time it was, I'm so proud of you. And I told her, she's like, how do you feel? And I told her, I was like, I feel so high. And my girl, having zero, trust in me, she's like, what did you take? Like, nothing. Fucking took the drug of comedy, the drug of performance. What did I take? Because if I would have told her, like, oh, someone gave me acid, like, right before I went on stage, she would have believed it immediately. My girlfriend has so little, like, her bar for me is so low. At any point in any day, if I told her a stranger gave me a pill and I took it, she would not question it for a second. She would just be like, golf course. We're supposed to go to the grocery store, Will. I'd be like, we still can. I'm just going to enjoy it a lot more. It's not like I was very useful at the grocery store anyways. I just carry whatever you say we need to take. I love when I think I have a choice at the grocery store and I pick out like the wrong parsley leaf and she's like, that's not even the right thing. Put it back. That's not parsley, Will. Those are acorns. Put them down. We're not even in the grocery store yet. That's a tree. You idiot. Little by little, most of my friends started going either to the bathroom or the bar and they saw me. And that was good, man. That was... it's very few and far moments in between where I get to... get these hugs from my group of friends where they're genuinely proud of something that I did. In fact, I think I said on this very episode, somebody, I think my girlfriend, asked me randomly, you know, what most proud of in my life? And I tried to just joke so that I wouldn't have to answer the question. But the truth is I was joking because I couldn't answer the question. I didn't know. I didn't have an obvious answer to the question, what are you proud of? I have too much imposter syndrome. I feel too much like a failure too often in my life to readily know what I'm most proud of. And then suddenly in 5 minutes on one stage, now I know. Now I can answer that question. And I'm just really happy and lucky that I had 6 people there that I love and care about very much that were able to see me and acknowledge and agree that it was a moment not only that I should be proud of, but each and every one of my loved ones there told me immediately that they were proud of me. It felt surreal to me, and they themselves said it felt surreal to them to be in an audience and be watching me on stage. You know, I think that they felt relief that I was actually funny, and they didn't have to, lie to me afterwards. I think that's a huge reason why they were so proud. And perhaps the greatest compliment of all, as one of my lights just ran out of battery. All good. We're still here. Perhaps the greatest compliment of all is not how they were proud of me or how they were happy for me, but I think the fact that none of them were surprised. In fact, it kind of felt like it's about damn time, you know? And I get it because I feel that way too. It was a great moment. Maybe the greatest moment, that I've ever experienced. Because I didn't know how to answer that question about what I was proud of. And I think it just feels good now to have an answer. And to put it in an even more stupid way, it feels good to be able to pin something on my Instagram profile page that isn't just my cat going viral. Now I have my viral kitty and a picture of me performing on stage at the Comedy Cellar pinned up. My two greatest accomplishments. As I said, Vinny Guadagnino went on right after me. And look, he did great, man. He did great. I thought he was really funny. I thought he was one of the funnier people on the show. I think if he wants it, he's got a future in comedy. I truly believe that. I'm not just saying that. I truly believe that. I think probably a lot of people would like to be like, oh, I bet he sucked. I bet this, no. And you know what's the reason? Like the fact that he was in that class, it shows he's taking it seriously. I saw it for myself. I saw him backstage. I saw him in before the show. He's not just fucking around here. He's taking it seriously. So I wish nothing but the best of luck to him, and I will absolutely show him support in his future, in his comedy future. I can't wait to see what he does next. The show was great. I was able to enjoy the rest of the show as just a fan and didn't have to worry anymore. And then afterwards, one of my best friends, Tony, DJ Top of New York, DJ Tony, he was spinning at the Vig Bar as he does on most Saturdays from 6 to 10. And that was just a quick little 20-minute walk from the Cellar. So we all literally just walked from the Cellar to Vig Bar and started drinking at Vig Bar with Tony spinning on the ones and twos, which I thought was just a great way to celebrate, with my girlfriend, 5 of my, and next 6 of my best friends now that Tony was there. Yeah, beers, shots, definitely got drunk. Bought 2 of the most expensive joints I've ever bought in my life, but I guess that's because that's the area. And, a bunch of my friends called it a night. It was actually then me, my girlfriend, Cole, and his girl, JoJo. The 4 of us kind of continued the night on a little bit of a double date. We went to Joe's Shanghai, which I had no idea is kind of a big deal or a very popular dumpling spot. But yeah, we went to Joe's Shanghai for some dumplings and basically a feast. We ate a lot. Very well priced too. It's cash only, and I took out $200 and Cole had another 200 on him. I thought we were gonna spend a lot. I didn't even have to take out money. Very well priced. And then we went from there to, I think the spot was called King Cannoli or the Cannoli King or something like that. For dessert. And some dessert drinks. We had more drinks drinks at Joe Shanghai for sure. Some Tsingtao and some what's that shit called? Soju. And then we went to this cannoli spot and I had Irish coffee. They had espresso martinis. That place, by the way, not well priced. That was a little pricey, but whatever. It was all good and fun. But it was a good time. We probably spent like another 2 hours on that double date, which is a nice kind of way to end the night out. I thought at one point, I swear to God, I thought it was 3 a.m. We were like, why? Someone was like, I wonder why that server's in such a bad mood. And I'm like, probably because we're being such idiots at 3 a.m. And I look at my phone and it says 10:30 at night. No concept of time. I have no idea what was going on. Yeah, we took an Uber home. And then me and Val ate leftovers in bed watching, I don't know, Netflix or some shit while our cats laid on top of us trying to steal our food. And that was kind of the perfect end to what really was a pretty perfect day, you know? I'm just happy and as someone that likes to joke that nothing or things rarely go my way, Saturday felt like a rare day where everything kind of did, you know? And look, I know my mom, you know, she wasn't able to be there, but in a way, like, you know, I didn't have to worry about her. I could focus on my set. She's going to see me, you know, there's a video of my set. She'll see that at some point. And I could just, like, you know, have a fun day drinking, you know, and not have to worry about her wanting to keep up or, you know, there's no way we would have made her walk to a Vig Bar. So I just tried to see the positive in it and being like, you know, I just got to, you know, enjoy and get drunk and get fucked up with my friends after performing on stage. And that was pretty fun, pretty cool. I really have no, I don't know, no regrets, no, I feel good. I saw the footage of me on stage. Obviously, I'm going to be my harshest critic. I noticed things that I could have done better, lines that I probably could have delivered better. But, you know, instead of feeling discouraged, I truly just can't wait to get out there and try it again and just tweak some things here, try some things there. And now even the scary part of coming up with new jokes, new minutes, new premises. I've already got some ideas. I've definitely got some ideas in the works. And, you know, I was lucky. Not every crowd I perform in front of is going to be as good as the crowd that I performed at last Saturday. That was a hot crowd. It was a very fun and forgiving crowd because everyone was there to support all 10 of us or 11 of us, really. That's not going to be the case every time, you know. From here on out, it's going to be a lot of shitty open mics at shitty dive bars with the audience full of just other comedians that don't give a fuck about you and are just waiting to get on stage to work out their 5 minutes. So I'm going to bomb a lot from here on out, you know, and it's just part of the process. I need to just get what I can out of these open mics to improve my own 5 minutes, my own craft. And hopefully I'll have, you know, a show every here and there where it's not just an open mic. And, you know, I'm sure that I'll have opportunities like that where I was lucky enough that I had a lot of people reach out wanting to see me perform and had no space for them, you know. We had a full audience in the crowd that day. So hopefully some of those people that wanted to come out still will want to come out and see me and support in the future. And I love and thank you guys for that. It will happen. I can say I accomplished the simple goal of doing it once, but that wasn't the whole goal. That's not enough. Now that I started, the goal is to keep going, to get on stage more, to try to develop a habit, a discipline. There are stages around here, open mics around here in Brooklyn. There's a ton where I work in the city. So I've got, like, you know, no excuse really. It's time to just get to work. And while I'm at it, don't think I've forgotten. My goal is to not just get in the grind for comedy, but DJing too. I'm going to be a DJ and comedian, man. Shit, maybe that is a good idea. I'll fucking come out, do a comedy set, and then spin for a party. I could see that happening in the future. Either way, that was my debut at the Comedy Cellar, man. Felt good to do one of these solo episodes again. I guess I love hearing the sound of my own voice, and I have nobody to interrupt me. Hopefully this answered a bunch of questions. Oh, by the way, I forgot to even mention, I put out a couple of pictures of me performing at the Comedy Cellar. I thought I would have been happy if I got like 30 likes, and I'm pretty much damn near 200 likes, which, for some of you, hot chicks out there that post yourselves in a bikini, that's nothing to you. I get it. You guys get thousands and thousands of likes. For me, it meant a lot, but so did all the comments that I got. I got a ton of DMs. I still haven't even replied to. I replied to all the DMs finally. I haven't even replied to the comments on my picture. Got to do that. I was very surprised from the feedback from the people that reached out, people I hadn't heard of or heard from in months, even years in some cases, reaching out, just wanting to congratulate me. A lot of them were shocked, had no idea I was even doing this. Surprised, proud. It just the feedback I got was just very, just it wholesome, humbling in a way. And, for someone, like I said, for someone that struggles to find moments in his life to be proud of, finally achieving one of those moments and then having the wave of just love come after that from so many of you, in a way, it was reaffirming to me and reassuring that I am doing something right. And I can't wait to give you guys even more reasons and more opportunities to reach out and just say good job, I'm just a doggy that wants to be pet. So thank you guys, just for the love and support, man. I really mean that. And keep it coming, man. Keep it coming, because I'm about to be a broke-ass comedian. I'm about to be a starving artist, struggling comedian, struggling DJ, paying his bills, bartend. Oh, wait, excuse me. Struggling comedian, struggling DJ, struggling podcaster, paying his bills by tending bar. Guys, that's all for me. But before I go, you know what I got to do. I got to plug my shit. Can I talk my shit again? Follow me on all platforms at I'm Will Bryant. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, X, Twitch, Spotify, YouTube, all that good shit. That's 3 words at I'm Will Bryant, Bryant, like Kobe. Until next time, guys, I love and appreciate you guys forever. And until next time, I just repeated myself, but fuck it. Peace.